Greetings! Welcome to another tutorial about Bloomreach XM with XIN Mods. In this video, we're going to talk about prefetching, a XIN Mods mechanism that reduces API chattiness and speeds up your backend code. Let's get into it. What you can see here is an overview of what a normal document, a semi-complex document, looks like. So in the big green box, you have the main document that you're interacting with. And usually a document points at other entities in the CMS, such as images, assets, or even other documents. To interact with the referenced content, we have to retrieve them with separate API calls. So after we retrieve the main document in the first call, then in the next 5 calls, we have to get document 1, document 2, image 1, 2, and 3. And these are all separate server calls. So you can imagine that this kind of increases the execution runtime of your backend APIs because of this chattiness that we're talking about. To reduce API chattiness, you can prefetch content with the fetch attribute that we will be talking about. In the tutorial today, we'll first naively implement retrieving recipes-related documents, and we'll end up replacing them with the proper prefetching approach. So let's have a look what our document looks like, just as a quick reminder. So in our curry recipe, I've set up some more fields. So we still have the thumbnail, but I've also added some related recipes here. So, and they point at other documents. In this case, just some recipes that are in the same folder. And we also have images here, and we could add some more, but I actually don't have any images to show you, so we'll keep it to this. Great, so now that we know what that looks like, let's go into our IDE and start writing a test that naively retrieves all these related elements, the thumbnail and the related recipes, using separate API calls. Great, so let's start our test. It won't be prefetching at the moment, but it will when we're done with it. So of course we have to connect to our Bloomreach instance. So let's grab this connection object. And then we want to say, okay, our document lives at this path. So let's go and just do that. That's good. And we can check this by going here and actually checking the URL. Let's just copy paste it in here just to be sure. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, now let's actually grab the document using the connection object. So we use the function getDocumentByPath, and let's output the title. There you go. So now if we run this, there you go. It has the title of the document we fetched. So we know that it's connecting to the CMS and it's getting the document. Now, if we have a look at the payload that gets returned by the server, we can see here that in the items key, we can find our related documents. So it's called related. And then for each of the documents that has been linked, it has a numeric index and a link object that points at a certain identifier. And this is the UID that represents the document in the CMS. So we got these, and then we have our thumbnail as well. And yeah, so we already know how to go and fetch an image. And if you don't remember, you should have a look at one of the earlier tutorials. But let's go and do that now. So let's get the thumbnail first. So we're going to await and ask a connection object to get an image from this link that we found. So document items dot thumbnail. Great. And let's just output a cropped version of it. So we ask the thumbnail image, which is an image object. Scale it down to a max of 300 and crop it to a rectangle. And then let's output here. Let's see if this works. Great. There you go. So we retrieved the thumbnail. Now let's also retrieve the referenced documents. So let's go back in here. Go related. So you can see this is actually not an array, it's a map. So we have to go and get the values. So let's go and get the related link of document items related. And now we're going to get the document through another API call. And we're going to fetch it by using the UID that's mentioned in the link itself, which is over here. And again, we're just going to output the title of the document that has been fetched. Great. Okay, so we've got the thumbnail, and we've got our two related documents. It's really good. But, as we mentioned, so now you have one API call here, one API call here, and as many API calls here as it needs to fetch all the related links. Now what we want to go do next is create a prefetching instruction. And the way to do that is by understanding which paths of the response payload need to be prefetched. And they can be partial paths. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to run it, and we're just going to analyze the path. So for the thumbnail, we need paths to the link objects in the payload. So for the thumbnail, it's thumbnail / link, and we know that the related objects are sitting underneath here. So, and the link is here. So what we want to do is say under the related folder, any folder underneath that, if you find a key called link, then please prefetch that one. We won't do anything with it, but for completeness sake, you can go and get the gallery ones and the download one as well. So gallery is the same. See, it has a numeric identifier, and download is only a single one. So here you go. So now that we have these paths, what we want to do is turn this into a JavaScript list. There we go. Great. Now, this was actually the hard part. The only thing we now have to do is, when we retrieve the initial document, provide in the options map an instruction to say which paths need to be prefetched. So you can see here, this is a valid attribute, and we just paste these in like this. Now, if you run it now, and we set a breakpoint here, we can see that if we go into items and we go into thumbnail, inside the link object, there's now an additional attribute called ref, which means reference to the thing that was being pointed at. And so this actually is the payload that you would get when you would do a separate API call to fetch the thumbnail. But now it is already part of the initial response. And the same goes for the related recipes. You can see here. So this was an image type, and this is a document reference. And you can see here it's pointing at the correct document. So that means that we now don't have to do separate API calls. Instead, we can just interact with the initial response payload and get our information from there. And so to do that, there are some variations of these get image functions and a get asset function as well that can query the response payload. And it can do so without needing to await. It doesn't return a promise. It just returns it immediately. And these functions are called get image from link sync. And I think there's get asset as well. Asset euro from link sync as well. Yep. So let's do that now. Instead of doing another API call, we're going to call into the response payload that we got in this initial one. So not much changes. We just strip out the await and we place sync at the end. So now we go here and we debug. Then we should see that, yeah, we still have a thumbnail image instance and it's still pointing at the right thing. And now once it's outputted this URL, it's still the same URL. So there you go. So that's pretty easy. And now with the second one, instead of going back to the CMS for a request to retrieve another document using the UID, we can just go into the related link object in here and reference the .ref object. So instead of this, we go related link.link.ref. There you go. So now hopefully, if you run this all the way through, there you go. We still have all the same information, but we only had to do one CMS call. Great. So getDocumentByPath isn't the only function that allows you to specify a fetch attribute in the options. You can do the same to execute querying. You can specify fetch, and I believe you can do the same to get document by UID. So UID, and then you can fetch. There you go. So with this small change, you can actually very much improve the response time from the CMS. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of thing, check out the playlist that popped up on the screen. And if you want to be notified when a new tutorial appears, make sure to subscribe. See you next time.